Hello and welcome to another lesson, an English lesson that this is the lesson I give. I go through much more quickly when I'm doing this. I'm just doing it because, hey, why not? It's extra practice for me, and maybe someone can learn something from this. Uh, I talk about my week. I'm actually not doing anything or I didn't do anything last week because I'm doing stuff next week for my birthday, which was yesterday, but I teach all weekend, so I'm going to night safari. As you know, my lessons always revolve around my week or current events in the world. I like to keep them up to date, always introducing new words. I use ChatGPT to incorporate words that are important for high stakes testing, but I introduce them in a fun and engaging way. So I saw a rainbow. I said, hey, let's do a lesson about rainbows. So it starts off, and I'll read this for you. Have you ever looked up at the sky after a light rain and spotted a dazzling arc of colors? That's a rainbow, nature's very own art show. But how does this masterpiece come to be? Again, all of these are just ways to lead up conversation. I obviously asked about my students' weeks, and then we move on. The words that are in red are the vocabulary words for this section of the lesson. I'll have my students read it, correct them on pronunciation, and but for now, I'll go ahead and read them. Rainbows are a combination of science and wonder. When sunlight passes through raindrops in the air, each drop acts like a tiny prism. These prisms bend and reflect the light, breaking it apart into a spectrum of colors we can see: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. This process is called refraction. Again, remember this is an English lesson. I'm not trying to teach my students about the concepts here. They know these concepts already. This is an English language lesson. It's important to remember that. Maybe some people might be thinking, hey, what is this all about? Well, that's what it's for. I'm not expecting that many people to gain knowledge from it, but anybody practicing English, anyone learning English who has a higher level, conversational is okay and everything, this lesson could be beneficial to you. Throughout history, rainbows have captured human imagination. In many cultures, they were believed to be magical bridges. The ancient Greeks imagined rainbows as a path between earth and heaven. In Norse mythology, a rainbow called the Bifrost connected the realm of the gods to the world of humans. Some also believe finding the end of a rainbow will lead to a pot of gold, thanks to Irish tales of leprechauns, but no one has ever reached a rainbow's end because it's not a physical place. Next time you spot a rainbow, remember the fascinating blend of science and stories behind that radiant arch. Perhaps it's not just a band of colors, but a bridge to a world of wonder. Now, again, most of my students being Chinese students, I often focus on that, but for anybody of any culture, they can apply this to what they know about their culture or another culture, actually, just in general. So, in the reading, leprechauns from Irish culture are mentioned as guardians of a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. Can you think of any mythical creatures or stories from Chinese folklore that are associated with specific natural phenomena? If so, which ones? Now, of course, this could apply to anyone or even a culture that's not of your own. If you know something, again, natural phenomena, we think of natural disasters, of course, are all natural phenomena. Earthquake, thunder, lightning, these have some sort of cultural implication in folklore and myths and legends, but also other things: shooting stars, just the sun rising and setting, aurora borealis, all of these things. Think about it. And in the lesson, of course, this is a way for someone to express themselves, especially express something in their culture, something they are knowledgeable about, but may have never used English to describe it. So it's a very a good part of the lesson, these critical thinking questions. And critical thinking question number 2 is, rainbows are a natural phenomenon, but they have also been used in literature and art as symbols. What do you think a rainbow could symbolize in a story or painting? Again, it could be any. This answer is very open for many different things. I got like imagination, hope, love, all kinds of different magic. We get all these different ideas and concepts. And then, as you see, there are Chinese words that match with these. I have them match the Chinese words to the to each one. So let's go one by one. The word refraction. Well, I'll read the definition first, so you can try to get the word, because it's easier to read down the word. So I'll read the definition, and then I'm going to tell you the answer right away. So try to match it before I get to it. A range of different things, especially colors. That's spectrum. There we go, spectrum. And that would be, or is that this one? That must be this one right here. Maybe? I don't know. Maybe it is. Okay, and then the next one. A transparent object, often triangular, that separates light into different colors. And that one would be prism. Maybe it's this one. I don't know if it is, but that one is prism. And the bending of light as it passes from one substance to another. And that is refraction. And the next one, shining or glowing brightly. And that one is radiant. And the last one, a kingdom or a field of activity. That's the only Chinese one I know for sure. That's like kingdom, literally kingdom. This one more realm, like an abstract place of some sort. Now, this gets there different ways to understand the word, the translation, the definition, but what's most important is in context. So let's go ahead and read them. Of course, reading is the best way to learn definitions. So that's why I always start out with just reading, get the word in context. Then this part is more for test taking, understanding that kind of analytical thought process. And then this is back into context again, a way to really understand and lock in the meaning of each word. I'm going to read the sentence with a blank, and you try to fill it in before I give you the answer. The scientists used a blank to demonstrate how white light can be separated into different colors. So he used something that would be a prism. In fantasy stories, dragons often live in their own blank where magic exists. We talked about that. It could be a kingdom, but it's a realm. And when you put a straw in water, it appears to bend because of, we learned that, refraction. That's the process. The night sky was blank with stars, making the entire landscape look magical. Again, that shining light, right? Radiant. The artist used a wide blank of colors to paint the sunset. Spectrum, right? A wide range of colors. And then one more time, different, just really knock those words in. Again, these are key words that are part of high stakes testing. I want to introduce them in an engaging way. What process causes the sunlight to separate into different colors when passing through raindrops? And that is, the answer is refraction. Some people say reflection. Reflection is like what you see in a mirror or in water. It's related in some degree. There's probably some etymological similarities. Next one going on. Which culture imagined rainbows as a bridge between earth and heaven? Norse mythology, Chinese legend, ancient Greek myths, or Martian folklore? Now, the answer was ancient Greek myths. According to the reading, again, this is not so much of a historical test. I might be wrong if ChatGPT was wrong, but I work with ChatGPT to create these lessons. I go back and forth, getting it, shaping it, getting questions, and making these lessons. So, based on the reading, it was ancient Greek myths, although Norse mythology said it was the realm between humans and gods. So that's pretty much the same thing, and I'd accept that answer. The next one is, I always do current events too, especially when I didn't do much on my own for the week. This one was based on a Guinness World Book of Record. I like doing those because people are always breaking Guinness World Book of Records to this one, and I always have a link. Now, I'll give credit to the woman who did it, and the website that here it is, the website that gives it to me. I like keeping it updated. Show the students that these lessons are created, in real time, right before. Well, not in real time, but currently and presented. And I can go back and do old ones. Maybe I might make a whole database of interesting ones, because some of these are timeless, but they are more interesting because of the fact that they're happening in real time. So I show the video. This lady is a Guinness World Book of World Record. Now, again, now in the story, it says things like Missouri. Her name Trisha Seafried. I can't even pronounce some names right, or don't know if they're going to be spelled correctly. So I take them out. No disrespect to the people or the cities or the countries or the specifics of some of these stories. I just try to make it digestible for my English language learners. So I'll read this story for you. These are the key words. I actually had other activities that I'm not going to get into on this lesson, but these are our target vocabulary words, so pay attention. If you know what they mean, we're going to do a quick exercise, not the whole thing, based on this reading. So I'll read it to you. A 13-year-old cat demonstrated his impressive jump roping skills by breaking a world record, managing 9 skips in just 1 minute. The cat, named Kit Kat, paired up with a woman to achieve this feat, showcasing that cats can indeed be trained, contrary to popular beliefs. The woman manages an animal talent agency, and Kit Kat's accomplishments in the entertainment industry are notable. Among his achievements, he has been featured in a social media campaign for a popular cat food brand and has made an appearance on a TV talent show. The woman commented, "Though jump roping is certainly his most outstanding skill, we limit how much he does it due to his age. Nowadays, his favorite act is giving high fives, and he enjoys greeting his admirers this way during events." Again, there's more activities that I'm not going to do here. We'll just do a couple ones to cement in these words, a few of them. He has received several awards for his blank in the medical field. Now, technically, you could say feat, right? But since there are several awards, we're going to assume that there are multiple things that the awards are dedicated to. So I'm going to use accomplishments. Definitely makes more sense. The best answer would be he has received several awards for his accomplishments in the medical field. Again, this has nothing to do with the story on the cat. These are just keep using these words in a new context. The author's new book is blank. It has been reviewed in many major newspapers. The author's new book is outstanding. Again, grammatically, I think you could say notable, but we're going to say outstanding. It has been reviewed in many major newspapers. Definitely the best answer. But I do like it when students use a word that at least they use the correct part of speech, that it can be grammatically correct. It's not the best answer, but it's good to at least they should be able to process of elimination. There are certain words that just don't work based on what part of speech it is. Next one, the movie star, and a lot of my students in China, if you don't know about that, they have a lot of high stakes testing. They test to get into the middle school, they test to get into high school, and test to get into university, and these tests are high stakes. They do want, I tend to be less test oriented, but this is what they want, and I think it's good. I try to do it in a more fun way, such as this, where different ways, because really the best way to learn vocabulary is just reading, but at the same time, just exposure. So speaking, reading, and testing is helpful too. So just more exposure and repetition. And I do bring these back up in other lessons. So the movie star waved to her blank as she walked down the red carpet. Who did she wave to? There's really only, could the movie star wave to her industry? technically, I guess grammatically that could be correct, but the best answer definitely is admirers, right? The people who admire her. The statistics blank the need for a new policy to tackle the issue. The statistics demonstrated the need for a new policy to tackle the issues. And this one, I think, is the only one that's really even grammatically correct. You can maybe argue with me, but definitely the best answer. The building's architecture was blank with tall spires reaching into the sky. Even if you don't know what spires are, you can probably get the idea that it's, wow, impressive, right? The building's architecture was impressive with tall spires reaching into the sky. Contrary doesn't really make sense. Grammatically, maybe you could make the argument that it does. Another one of these stories from that same website. Again, I take the story. I asked to summarize it in ChatGPT and I have a back and forth talk with ChatGPT to recreate it. Oh no, do it like this. Add this word. Okay, rephrase it, shorten it, give it for a 7th grade reader level or different. I change it based on different things. But this one, less vocabulary based, more on reading comprehension and discussion. So I'll read it to you real quickly. Firefighters were overjoyed to be reunited with a lively kitten 2 days after saving the small creature from a storm drain. The local fire department mentioned that they, along with local police, responded to a call late at night about a kitten's cries coming from inside a drain. Given the darkness and to ensure safety, the decision was made to wait until morning for the rescue. To help the kitten, a pet crate along with food and water was lowered into the drain. By daylight, firefighter Dom descended into the deep drain to rescue the kitten. The young male kitten, now known as Storm, is currently in the care of an animal control officer. The grateful kitten later visited the fire station, bringing joy to the crew that had earlier ensured his safety. Again, focusing now on reading comprehension. Why did the firefighters decide to wait until morning to rescue the kitten? Go ahead and read those real quickly. The answer is B. It was too dangerous due to the darkness. Now, again, these are slightly rewritten. It said, given the darkness and to ensure safety, the decision was made. So that's not using the exact same words, slightly rewording it to really make sure they understand reading comprehension, and that sometimes based on a student's level, I give them more or less time to skim the reading. What did the firefighters lower into the drain for the kitten? Go ahead, take a quick look. I'll give you the answer. The answer is, again, B, a pet crate with food and water, although some of those make sense enough. And the next question is a true or false. The kitten's name is Thunder. False, because the kitten's name is Storm, based on the storm drain. And we have another true or false. Dom is a local police officer. False again. He's a firefighter, right? Firefighter. And then I have this extra one I'll give you. This is because each of my students, I will tailor every lesson to them individually, and anytime they want me to focus on something, I will for them and add extra portions. I'm going to share this with you. This student likes Lord of the Rings, and he wanted help with this sentence. Gardeners came by arrangement and removed in wheelbarrows those that had inadvertently remained behind. It's an awkward sentence, and it's kind of an awkward story sometimes it's a magical story, but I wanted to break it down into different areas, and one of them was on the word inadvertently. I actually had a long conversation during the week. We chat back and forth on WeChat, but I wanted to really drill in the meaning of a cluster of words. We're going to start with inadvertently. Which of the following is not a synonym for inadvertently? So he didn't know the word inadvertently, but he could recognize that mistakenly, accidentally, and unintentionally were similar enough that it must be deliberately. And so this is another way actually to really understand language, by grouping things in ways like this. Now, again, it only gets you closer to the definition because synonyms do not mean the same meaning. It just means that they can be interchanged, at least in one circumstance. So of course those aren't the same meaning. But anyway, if you do enough of these, the meaning of the word kind of will come out. And this is a perfect example. If you do something inadvertently, you did it, and I on purpose did it like this. There's two questions, and he recognized there's two answers that could be correct if you don't. Again, you assuming you don't know what the word inadvertently means. We're trying to learn it by context. He was able to say, well, it's not on purpose, it's not deliberately, mistakenly or without realizing. So I just let it go there, and I said, oh, we'll come back. Those at this point, either of those answers could be correct. Again, not based on actuality, just based on the context. And then, which of these words mean you did something on purpose? So again, this is now going back the opposite, but we're learning inadvertently. Okay, well, it's not inadvertently. We know that. Intentionally, by mistake, accidentally. I did this because I didn't know if he knew what the word intentionally meant. So that's why I was given this one. He actually did know what intentionally meant, so he was able to say that intentionally was the correct word. And then the next one, this one is what kind of solidifies it. If a person says they inadvertently lost their keys, it means they, and now I don't have the option of mistakenly. I just have lost them after searching everywhere, lost them without noticing, purposely threw them away, showed them to everyone. Then he's able, based on these ones and based on the context, he knows that it's this one, and then he goes back and he can choose the best answer for this, which would be without realizing rather than mistakenly. And then I asked him, can you think of a time you did something inadvertently? I like to ask first, is inadvertently a negative or positive? And sometimes people would think it's negative, just maybe the first thing that comes to mind. But no, of course it's not. It's neutral. For example, and I use the example, living here in Thailand, in my land, mango trees grow amazingly easy, which of course I know a lot of people are jealous because they can't grow their mango trees in non-tropical regions, or not very easily anyway. So easy that I threw, when I'm done with my mango seed, I threw it out one time. It actually started to grow on like a brick. I had this brick area, so there's no plants even. It was actually, and it was rainy, and it's just the moistness. It was able to grow on its own. So I inadvertently grew a mango tree. That's a positive thing for the most part, although I'm running out of spaces to plant trees, and I have too many mangoes, so I'm planting those on the wall, using that to build my natural wall. He gave me a negative example. He missed a phone call that was actually a scam or something. So that was inadvertently missed his phone call because he had his ringer off, but he was happy that he did. Then I like to use different things. Given that same awkward sentence, gardeners came by arrangement and removed in wheelbarrows those that had inadvertently remained behind. I said, let's change the subject from gardeners to children. And then now change the sentence so it makes sense. If I say children came by arrangement and removed the wheelbarrows, it doesn't make as much sense. Let's make it make more sense. And he came up with something like children came by arrangement and removed the candy that was inadvertently left on the table. Again, you didn't even have to use inadvertently. Up to you, really. This could be taken in many different directions, as well as doing in the passive voice. We talk about passive voice. We could say, those that had inadvertently been left behind were removed. And then you could add by the gardeners, or not even mention the subject. I mentioned how sometimes just omitting the subject is a useful way to use the passive voice. Give the example, the famous example of politicians when they say mistakes were made. Of course, anybody may be in a position where they don't want to, either they made the mistake or they don't want to point fingers at whomever did. So, next one is make the sentence interrogative. Again, as an English lesson, they often don't know what the word interrogative means. So I talk about, and then we learn more word forms like interrogation. And then I give an example of like a police, or you're stuck in a dark room. You've got the bright light in your face. They're asking you questions because the root word interrogate means question. And interrogation is when you are being questioned. And to make a sentence interrogative, turn it into a sentence. There's many ways, of course, you can. That's not the difficult part. It's still an exercise to, you can say, when did the gardeners come by arrangement? Who came by arrangement? Whatever. Lots of different questions you can ask here. But also we're learning new root word, interrogate, interrogation, interrogative. Learning words in context are actually a much better way to learn vocabulary words. Now, of course, I don't know anything about what this sentence. He's reading the book. He took this sentence from the book and asked me about it. So I actually needed to know more about the sentence because I don't know exactly the situation that was going on. So I asked him, okay, why were some things left in the garden? So he kind of had to go back and recall. Of course, if this was specialized for him, this would be difficult for you right now listening because you don't know what that sentence was referring to. But if you had, then you would be able to say, okay, what were they? Were they important or just garden waste? Can you describe the scene before the garden arrived? And he was able to do all this. There's like a party and stuff. This actually was related to it. Another sentence that he gave me, I have called you all together for a purpose. Something in the way he said this made an impression. Okay, so again, we have purpose, which is like we've been talking about, intentional, deliberate, inadvertently, the opposite, of course. So then I asked him, why did the speaker call everyone together? Now, again, I didn't know why. It turns out this was actually true, to have a party. But based on the context of the sentence, you couldn't determine that. So the answer is actually for a specific reason. But in this case, because he knows the context of the story, it was actually also to have a party. So I just made up those other answers. Actually, ChatGPT did. So we know that. And then we say, which of the following describes the impact of how the speaker said the statement? It made everyone laugh. No one cared about it. It resonated with everyone. It made everyone leave. Again, based on the context of just the sentence, we could say it resonated with everyone. He didn't know the word resonated, but he was able to say that it wasn't, the other three weren't true, so he knew it was this. So that already narrows him down. Okay, resonated has some sort of, you kind of understand the word resonate by eliminating the wrong answers, knowing that is the correct answer, not knowing what resonated is. I used Google Translate, and we went on some tangents about music and everything, what resonate means. Again, a very good way to really understand vocabulary in these different ways. And then I said, what might the way he said it imply, or the way that he said this imply? He whispered it, he was joking, he was very serious, or he sang the words. Again, he remembered that specific story. I think he wasn't serious, but we were able to determine he obviously didn't whisper it. He wasn't joking. Technically he could have sang it in the situation, but he was very serious. It was important, but I think he actually said he said something different based on the story that I didn't know, but that's okay. And then we go on to this. Let's talk about that word impression, right? If something made an impression, what did it do? Was it easily forgotten? It had no effect? It was memorable, or it was funny? Of course, it could be funny, but it was definitely memorable, right? To make an impression. We talked about impression. I showed him my copper cup I like to drink from. And visualize when they lay out the metal and they run it through some sort of thing that leaves these impressions. So you can think of it, impressions are something that are physically left on something. In this case, it could be in our mind or our heart or our soul. When something leaves an impression, it's lasting, right? Or memorable. And finally, the last question, the word purpose in the sentence, again, we can go back to the original sentence if you forget what it was. I've called you all together for a purpose. Something in the way that he said this made an impression. And again, by now, we've already come across on purpose, deliberate. It was pretty clear, pretty easy. And but throwing in some of those words, mistaken, inadvertent, again, definitely the answer is a planned reason. So there's your English lesson for the week. Again, any feedback on something? I mean, I am an English teacher, a tutor, a lecturer, but I'm more of a like a one-on-one tutor. So it's not the format that these videos will necessarily be helpful, but I just feel like, you know what, I'm always making videos. I'm making videos about organic farming. I'm doing my podcast. I'm thinking, this is actually a huge part of my life. And I like to just get it out there. I'm going to develop it. You can give me ideas of what, but this isn't like my main thing. The purpose here isn't to make videos to upload. It's actually just something that I might as well do since I make these lessons every week, and they might be interesting to people specifically. I would say either younger native English speakers or people who English is not their native language or they want to improve it. But I intentionally speak quickly. It should be maybe somewhat more useful than just listening to random videos. There is an aspect of English language learning that more advanced learners, I think, can gain something from. So have a wonderful week. I'll see you next weekend. Bye-bye.